And all of a sudden everything took off then after that. So I initially went on trial to United in 1992, and then after that trial period went back for another 3 week trial period in July and signed for the club then in July of 1992.
They paid some money for you, so they must have seen something that they liked in those two trial periods. What was that like as a young kid moving to Manchester for that trial period?
Look, it was a bit surreal, as one of those that just engulfed myself with football, so as well as obviously playing, and I see it with kids now, there's kids that will play football but don't necessarily really love football, and they don't go to matches and watch matches when they're a kid in the afternoons after they play a youth team match, or I just engulfed myself with it between Bad Match magazine and Shoot magazine, having all of that around me, seeing all those players, and then all of a sudden, when I went on my first trial day, all of a sudden at one stage I was sat in the Cliff training ground, and I was sat beside Bryan Robson, who was England captain, and things like that. That was, was quite surreal. But eventually, and very quickly, you have to get over that and realize if you're going to make a career for yourself, you have to see yourself as an equal to those people in terms of, once you're out in the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you were there at a key moment, really, in United's history in terms of the youth teams and stuff like that, weren't there? I've stolen an image from your Twitter of a game you played in 1994, a Pontins League Division One game against Forest, and the United side is Les Seeley in goal, Gary Neville, Clayton Blackmore, Mike Phelan, Patrick McGibbon, Chris Casper, Nicky Butt, Colin McKee, Dion Dublin, Paul Scholes, Simon Davies, and on the bench, David Beckham. So there's some pretty big names in that United side, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I've still got a lot of the reserve team sheets and everything that are from the Pontins League. And what I said, Adam, like from that time in 1992 that I went over the 97. Suppose Gafford had created a culture. Alex Ferguson had created a culture and was building a culture. And, the whole idea that, the first team, yes, I know, 92, 93, they obviously won the league, in the Premier League. And that was, the first time in 25 years, I think, that they had won, first division stroke Premier League. But as well as that, the reserve team won the league for the first time in something like 25 years as well. The A team, with obviously Backs and Scholes and all of that, were coming through and winning the A team league and winning the youth cup, I think, in 91, 92. There was success was bred right through. But what I always really noted about the whole thing was that, it didn't matter if you were the first team player or the lads that were playing within the youth team, or even below that, Adam. You had the canteen staff, the gaffer knew everybody, and they were all treated equally. It wasn't, nobody was thought of as any better than the next person. I think everybody was at a level, and I think that really told in the fabric of the club as well. And as say this, it was very similar at Wigan whenever I went there as well.
Good to hear. You did play one game in the first team. I'm not going to touch on it too much because you lost 3-0 to York City in the League Cup and you got sent off. I
Yeah.
have seen the highlights. It's never a penalty. It's a
Oh,
foul, but it's outside the box.
yeah.
Whether it was a red or a yellow is open to debate, but it's definitely outside of the box. Ignoring obviously what happened in the game, how did you feel making your debut at Old Trafford for the
Oh, look,
first team?
it was an amazing experience, and the week before I'd travelled with the squad to Rada Volgograd, and I sort of had an inkling that I'd be there or thereabouts. Um, so to actually put on that United jersey for a first team game was just amazing, and obviously it didn't work out the way that I would like it to have worked out. But they've said that I put on a first team jersey for Manchester United. It's just things that other people could only dream about, and it's quite disappointing because even that season I was back in the first team squad, and I was on the bench for a couple of games, notably the one against Newcastle at Old Trafford that remember Kevin Keegan had lost the plot a wee bit at that stage, and that season was saying, I'd love it if we beat them. So I was on the bench in that game, and that was the stage where there were only three substitutes on the bench. So things were still ticking over. But I think it was the following season, '96. Then, whenever I went on loan to Swansea, that things sort of changed a little bit once I got quite badly injured.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that then. So obviously you're on the precipice of the first team, as you say there, and then you go out on loan. Were you injured at Swansea while you were out there on loan?
Yeah, so basically, I played some of the pre-season games for the first team, and it was the Umbro International Cup was up at Nottingham Forest. I think Ajax were involved, Forest were involved. I can't remember the other team at the time, but so I'd played within that. I'd played in the pre-season games. So over in Ireland, we played at Portadown in the north, and then went down and played a League of Ireland Select, and was involved with those games, and then the gaffers he tended to do with the younger lads, he'd put them out on loan. So I think it was Jan Mulvey then was manager. Well, it was Jan Mulvey the manager at Swansea at the time, and I went out on loan to Swansea. But the way it was working at him was I was going to train 3 days a week at United, and then on the Thursday, Friday, go down and stay for the couple of days at Swansea, and then obviously play games. But managed to play one game against Doncaster. Always remember we beat Doncaster 1-0 Swansea, and remember Jack Lester was up front, and Darren Moore, that's obviously managing now. Darren was the centre back there at the time. I remember having to mark him from set pieces, which which was a feat in its own. So, but then was actually in training, went in for a tackle with Ronnie Wahlberg. We just both went in for a genuine tackle, and my knee went the opposite way and was out 5.5 months of 2 operations. And then the next part of the story, I suppose, is going out on loan to get fit with Wigan Athletic, and then didn't look back for 5 years.